Ukrainian Armed Forces soldiers continue to successfully attack Russian oil refineries. On the night of August 30th, 2 oil refineries were attacked, said the commander of the Unmanned Systems Forces, Robert Brody. Short squeeze of shares of the cooperative, Koni na Kuban, horses in Kuban were an important part of the life of the local population. Koshchai's needle is being consistently anorexized by the defense forces of Ukraine, he noted in Telegram. Madyar also reported that the 14th SBS Regiment attacked the Krasnodar Oil Refinery, which produces 1.1% of the total volume of oil and is used, in particular, for military needs, supplying aviation fuel, as well as the Syzran Oil Refinery in the Samara Region. The last oil refinery was attacked again. It produces 3% of the total volume per year, 8.5 million tons of oil. The General Staff confirmed the defeat of 2 oil refineries in Russia last night. The telegram of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reports that both oil refineries are involved in providing the Russian armed forces. As reported earlier that in August several oil refineries stopped their operations after strikes by the Ukrainian Armed Forces. In particular, this affected the Kuibyshev Oil Refinery. As a result of the attack, both primary oil refining units at the refinery were damaged, ELD-4 and ELD-5, each with a capacity of 70,000 barrels per day. In addition, we also reported that Ukraine knocked out almost all of Russia's main oil refineries within a 1,000 kilometers radius. Recently, only a few oil refineries have not been hit. This concerns Srednyi in Nizhnekamsk, the Kapotnya oil refinery right in Moscow, and smaller plants near Kaluga and Oral. This is what Defense Express analysts write, having published a map of Ukrainian strikes. As analysts recall, on the night of August 28, Ukraine successfully hit 2 Russian oil refineries at once, Kuibyshev in Samara, as well as Afipsky in Krasnodar Krai. And the successful attacks on these 2 oil refineries mean that Ukraine is successfully completing the methodical knocking out of all major Russian oil refineries at a range of about 1,000 kilometers, Defense Express notes.
Ебать! Ебать! Тихо, интерком!
Ну, на нефтебазу мы уже не поехали. Сказали, что сами доедут. Но там полыхает знатно. Тут по всему вообще, там по всему периметру дым идет. Это, да, пиздец вообще полный.
Мама, еще один. Это сбили походу. Мама.
Прикольно. Ты видел там свет?
Это сбили, да. Еще летят, слышишь?
Да, слышу.
Вот опять.
Да. Ты выпала, походу. Что это?
Если не ошибаюсь, это вообще ракетой прилетела.
Ukrainian military have hit another important enemy facility that supplies the Russian army with oil products. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on August 29. It is indicated that tonight a complex fire strike was carried out on a linear production station in the area of the settlement of NATO Pucha in the Bryansk region of the Russian Federation. The units of the missile forces and artillery and the unmanned systems forces worked in cooperation with the Special Operations Forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and the Security Service of Ukraine. The station pumps diesel fuel through main oil pipelines, in particular for the needs of Russian occupation forces. The pumping capacity of this facility is about 10.5 million tons per year. A fire has been recorded on the territory of the facility. The results of the damage are being clarified, the report says. Let us recall that yesterday the Ukrainian Armed Forces struck 2 oil refineries in Russia, the Avipsk Oil Refinery in Krasnodar Krai and the Kuibyshev Oil Refinery in Samara Oblast. Avipsk Oil Refinery, which main products are gasoline and diesel fuel, is involved in supplying the army of invaders. The annual refining volume is 6.25 million tons of oil per year, the statement said. Also, units of the Unmanned Systems Forces and Special Operations Forces inflicted fire damage on the Kuibyshev Oil Refinery in the Samara Region of the Russian Federation. Explosions and a fire were recorded on the territory of the plant. This enterprise produces gasoline, diesel fuel, fuel oil, solvents, in total, more than 30 types of oil products. The processing capacity is 7 million tons of oil per year. In addition, ammunition depots and a number of logistics facilities involved in supplying the Russian army were hit. They are located both directly in Russia and in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Detailed information on the consequences of the defeat is still being clarified. The defense forces continue to take all measures to undermine the military-economic potential of the Russian occupiers, to provide the invading army with fuel, lubricants and ammunition, and to force the Russian Federation to stop its armed aggression against Ukraine, the General Staff added. It was also reported that in August, Russia suffered record losses in oil refining due to drone strikes on refineries, which coincided with scheduled maintenance at these plants.